everyone, and welcome back for episode 44 of the Simply One podcast. I'm your host, Colin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris.
How we doing, everybody?
We're just a couple of best friends who are passionate about all things pop culture. If you're looking for lukewarm takes on movies, video games, TV shows, or even the occasional comic, then we've got the show for you.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
I went to a comic book store because we got to talking.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how we wanted to do another comic, but I got to thinking, I was like, well, I don't want to do a comic that's like Star Wars or Marvel or anything like that. I want just a good comic. Mm-hmm. And apparently,
you want to branch out.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves made this comic called Berserker.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm gonna try to maybe poke around, try to find one. Yeah, 'cause, I think there's like 10 or something out so far, and the place that I went didn't have the first one. And I was like, oh well.
Yeah, he made Berserker.
But it's an it's like an adaptation of something, or it's like the guy was telling me.
Yeah,
it's something.
But I don't remember what. Maybe a manga or an anime.
I think it was something to do with still like Berserk.
Oh, okay. I'm
but
not
like
sure.
His is called Berserker.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If you know, definitely indulge me at simplyoneWellback@gmail.com. Boom.
Easy and steady.
Throwing it in right in the beginning.
Shit. Getting them right up front.
Fuck.
You need to chill out. You're high on the spaghetti. Dude, $1 million spaghetti.
Yeah. Something different.
If you guys don't listen to a couple of creeps, go give her some love and just only comment, give us the $1 million spaghetti recipe.
$1 million spaghetti recipe.
Like, don't email her anything about her podcast. Just email her. Hey, how do you make this $1 million spaghetti?
Yeah. How do you do it?
You all right?
I'm ready.
All right. So this week, we really, honestly, I was surprised. This will basically be 2 full weeks that we haven't curated news, right? Wasn't much missed, honestly, which I didn't figure there would be. Well, going through the holiday season, it's kind of slowed down. I figure next week we'll probably start getting some more news coming out. But we did get to watch Glass Onion.
Yes. On
the Netflix, which I believe it was still currently the #1 movie on Netflix, at least in America.
Yes.
America. And yeah, I was really looking forward to this movie, so I was excited to get to actually watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Follow up to Knives Out, which was one I totally slept on. Caught it on like Amazon for free, I was like just part of the Prime, and was like, yo, like Morgan and I watched it on a whim, and we were like sat at the edge of our seats, literally like at the end of it, just giving us his revelations, and you're like, you're listening to him, talking about the hole at the center of this donut. But then if you look closer, there's another hole in that donut hole. You're like, what is he talking about? But he's pulling you along, yeah. And so I was like, yeah, we were smitten with Benoit Blanc, and I was definitely excited to see the follow up. I think Rian Johnson, say what you will about Rian Johnson making a Star Wars movie, but by God, he makes this shit out of a murder mystery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is like you can just I feel like keep doing them.
Oh, yeah.
Just make it a good
because this is unrelated to Knives Out.
Yeah, no,
other than that it's Benoit Blanc.
Yeah, it's just, he's a detective that's on that case. You could just do a bunch of his cases that he's done in his life.
It is like a murder mystery novel series, Yeah. These are just the several adventures of Benoit Blanc, right? So much so that apparently, this is, we're not getting in the news yet, the little bit that I do have. Apparently Rian Johnson, and I disagree with him on this one, but I see what he's coming from. He didn't even want Knives Out in the title of the movie. Because it's officially like Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery.
Okay.
Which I get from like a marketing standpoint.
Sure.
Yeah, you definitely need to put Knives Out on the title so people go, oh yeah, Knives Out. I watched that, or I heard that was good, or whatever, right? Yeah. But I see where he's coming from of like, it's not Knives Out 2.
Right.
You know what I
mean?
It's
Glass Onion.
Because it's, it's not related to Knives Out.
It's something completely different.
Yeah. But I think he's got something on his hands here.
Yeah.
And I was telling you and Morgan when we watched it, he's already started writing 3.
Good.
And I'm pretty sure Daniel Craig was basically like, yeah, dude, I'll do Benoit Blanc until I'm old, until I'm dead. I love playing this character.
I'm glad because he does good.
He does a really good job. Yeah. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Cut out. Yes. Cut it out. So all I've got in the news is little bit of DC update, nothing major, and then a developing story about Jeremy Renner. So, Black Adam is officially out of the picture for the DCU, at least for the foreseeable future. I didn't write down statements or anything like that. I'm just, we can update DC once we get bulk, right, next week or the week after, hopefully. But basically, they're not going forward with a Black Adam in the DCU, at least for now.
I did hear that, and I can't remember if we talked about it or not.
Yeah.
But same thing with the Batman with Robert Pattinson. Is they're not continuing that with the DCU?
So, and you kind of we talked about that.
Yeah, okay.
Personally.
Yes, I know we talked about
that
a little bit, but I can't remember if it was on here or not.
They're not canceling it or anything like that.
No, he's just
not going to be the Batman in the mainline universe. Like, if they make a Justice League, it's not going to be. Which I think is fair, because the Batman that they give us in the Batman doesn't really...
I guess that's true.
He can't stand up next to Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's too much of a...
It's like, how do we make the Dark Knight even more real? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't see him being a Justice League member.
Well, I guess they still can just make separate movies, but have it not in like their universe. Yeah.
I mean, DC Comics has something called Elseworlds, which is basically that. I mean, and then you figure Marvel has What Ifs and things like that, where we can have one-offs where this exists.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And in Dwayne Johnson's, I think he made like an Instagram post about him meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and that we're not going to be going forward at the moment, but he did call it like DC's multiverse or something to that effect.
Okay.
So they are kind of, if he like accidentally either he misspoke or he's letting something out of the bag, that they are kind of addressing a multiverse, because you figured the Joker doesn't take place in so I think they're fine to do that.
Okay.
And then Zachary Levi, who plays Shazam, kind of responded to somebody on Twitter who was like, well, Zach, looks like you better start looking for another gig. And he said something to the effect of basically like, I wouldn't be so sure about that. Like, I wouldn't count that out yet. And so I'm like, is Shazam, of all people, going to be the one to come through all this?
To hold out.
But I mean, what? I mean,
I haven't seen any of the Shazams.
I haven't seen the first one, but I understand that it was actually pretty decent. It didn't do well at the box office, but it was one of those where after the fact, people were like, damn, I slept on this because it was a DC movie, when it was actually good. But then the trailers for Shazam! Fury of the Gods doesn't look good.
Bad. Yeah, it looks real bad. So I'm curious if it's like, well...
Is it a marketing issue, or is this one going to be bad? I don't know. But, he unless he's setting himself up to get hurt, you know what I mean? Unless he's like, I wouldn't count me out yet. And then after his movie comes out, he has to make a post of like, all right, so Shazam is not going to be in the future of the DCU. Somebody just quote tweets the first tweet,
I wouldn't be too sure about that.
Hey, is this still you, Zachary Levi? He's like,
all right. He's like, all right. That was good.
All right. So, I know what I said. Things have changed. But no, so I think that's kind of interesting that he at least had the confidence, you know what I mean? Whether it's justified or not, I don't know. But it does seem to mean, like, does he know something? You know what I mean? That he's like, he's safe for now.
What does he know?
So I don't know. That'd be kind of funny to me if, like, of all the characters, Shazam's one that they're like, we can use that.
We'll be all right.
Yeah, we can keep this guy. And so we do have to switch gears here a little bit into a more serious story that is still, like, breaking news, like, developing stuff that I saw late last night or this morning. That's been kind of, I've been following it all day just to see if there's any real updates. So it seems like, at the time of recording, all we know is that on New Year's Day, Jeremy Renner had to be life-flighted to the hospital after a weather-related snowplow accident, was the way that I first encountered the story, and that he was in critical but stable condition, which basically, like a lot of medical people on the internet were talking about, that doesn't mean that he's okay, right? That means that he's not getting worse.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a mystery for us all day of like, oh man, like what happened? And it sounds like,
like right before we started, we got an update that we all like sat around and kind of listened to.
Yeah, like, oh, okay. Because, I mean, you don't know what the extent of that is. Like, is he, and I don't want to speculate too much on like what the extent of the injuries and things like that, but just
Sure.
what it sounds like at the moment is that there was some sort of accident with his snowplow, or it sounds like it was his snowplow, and the lower half of his body, some extremity, potentially his leg, was run over by the snowplow, and received some serious damage, and that the major issue that he faced was blood loss, and just because of the state of the roads that he was actively plowing, there was some worry about being able to get to him, but they did life flight him, and I haven't heard any more update as far as like, is he still considered critical, things like that.
Yeah.
But I think if it's been this long, that's a good sign that it's been this long. We haven't heard bad news. Right.
Like, when it's kind of like that, no news is good news.
Good news. Right. Yeah, exactly. But so right now, that's really all we know is that he suffered a pretty serious injury. It sounds like a leg was hurt by his plow, potentially pretty seriously. And last we heard was in critical condition. And so hopefully, he's able to, recover as quickly as possible, and kind of everything will kind of come together for him. And hopefully he can be healthy and moving around when he's able.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, he's been my Hawkeye since a little guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's...
Well, I mean, he's been in, I think about like, I completely lost it, but where he's the bomb disposal, in the military, not the Green Zone. That one's with Matt Damon. It is Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
And that's a really good movie.
Arrival.
Arrival's a very good movie. He's a very good actor.
Oh yeah. Outside of Marvel, he has.
Yeah. And I mean,
movies.
I know that he does a lot of different projects and things like that, and so I do, obviously anybody who gets hurt, and we don't need to justify why it's a bad thing for him to be hurt, right?
Sure.
But hopefully, he's able to get everything together and be all right. And we'll just kind of keep our ear out for any more information. So moving on to Glass Onion.
Yes.
It's a weird one because there is technically a box office for it.
Okay.
To talk about, but it didn't get a standard release at all. It had like a week in very limited theaters, and so it made $15 million in the box office. But that wasn't really the release plan anyways. It wasn't like, oh, let's make our money at the box office.
Right.
I do know that Netflix bought the rights to, I think, 3 or 4 more Knives Out type stories.
I'm excited.
For like $400 million.
Oh, wow.
And so Ryan Johnson and Daniel Craig apparently were... So I believe Daniel Craig was an executive producer on this.
Okay.
And so he's a creative input in some ways.
Yeah.
But so I'm sure they made a pretty penny off of that deal, right? But this movie in particular cost $40 million to produce. So as far as movies go, that's a pretty cheap movie.
Yeah.
I've talked about it on the podcast before. I think mid-range movies really need to come back because that's where you're able to take your risk, right? And I think, doing a murder mystery in today's...
it's going to grab everyone's attention.
Well, and I was thinking in today's, I don't want to say cinematic climate, but you know what I mean? The state of movies right now. I think it's something that people don't see, so it feels new, but it's a tried and true story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, especially on TV, we know that people love a 1-hour crime drama. You know what I mean? Bum, 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 bum. I think that's probably copyrighted. We didn't do enough to get struck, I don't think. But if we did, I apologize, Dick Wolf. That is his name. Don't giggle.
Damn it. I almost had it too.
Think about medical files, how it's alphabetized by last name first name last.
Wolf Dick.
So his name is just Wolf Dick.
Moving on.
Anyhow. So yeah, I'm not really too pressed about the box office for Glass Onion as far as does that make it a success or not?
Right.
I will say that for 2 weeks in a row now, it's the number 1 film on Netflix. So it's doing pretty well as far as viewership goes. I saw something that said 80.5 million viewership hours.
Wow. And
it's about a 2-hour movie. So that's, 40 million people watching, or at least 40 million screens.
It's a whole lot of screens.
On Rotten Tomatoes, the audience and the critics actually agreed and gave it a 93% each, which is pretty high. That's certified fresh, right? IMDb has it at a 7.3 out of 10, and Metacritic gave it an 81. So I think it's doing pretty well review-wise as far as reception goes. like I said, we don't have much in the way of box office to talk about, so we're kind of just going to jump into a synopsis. Do you got one over there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you do.
Mm-hmm. Tech billionaire Miles Braun invites his friends for a getaway on his private Greek island. When someone turns up dead, Detective
Benoit. What do we say? Benoit?
Yeah, Benoit.
Benoit.
That's what my first went to.
Yeah.
Blanc, he's put on the case.
Yeah.
Detective Blanc is put on the case.
And and so I've got one here that just says, famed Southern detective Benoit Blanc travels to Greece for his latest case. And yeah, because I mean, from a synopsis standpoint, the less you know about a murder mystery, the better.
The better.
Right. The whole point is that we don't know, right?
We have to try to piece it together ourselves.
Yeah. So it also will be an odd one to review. I feel like our spoiler section will be pretty vague because a lot of the like good parts, right, are like some of the stuff that you don't want to know.
Right.
Going into it. But I did think, starting on like our spoiler-free plot thoughts, it does a good job of taking the structure of the first film as or taking similar notes as like the first film, where it takes the structure of a murder mystery and then kind of twists it a little bit to go like, okay, like in the first one, they reveal halfway through the movie who killed the guy, right? And that it's Ana de Armas's character, and we're following her, right? But then there's another layer to the mystery of like, well, we still don't know why Benoit Blanc was hired to begin with,
right?
And so it kind of adds a tweak to the thing of like, oh yeah, we already know who did it halfway through the movie, so now what, right?
Yeah, what do we do now?
And this kind of does a similar structure of like changing the game, I think. Where you're like, okay, so now what, right?
Yeah.
And I think it does it just as successfully and without being the same trick.
So yeah, it hooked you pretty good, but fairly well.
Yeah.
Or for like keeping you up to speed with it.
Yeah, both before and after the switch, you're still invested. And like I was saying, it's not the same switch. It's not, we know who did the killing, right? It's another wrinkle is added that you're like, that changes everything, right? I do think it was a pretty creative way to do it. Once again, I think that this one, just like I was talking about with like the there's a hole at the center of this donut hole, it does a great job of guiding the audience through the revelations at the same pace as the characters have those revelations.
Yes.
So that you feel like you're solving it with him, where you're like, you might say the thing just before he says it. I think I even did.
Yeah.
I was like, it's that,
yep.
And then he says it and you're like, yes, I'm smart. You know what I mean? It rewards you.
Smart.
Right. And it does make it where you're like, okay, it feels like a solvable mystery, and then I just from a character standpoint, I kind of put this in plot thoughts, and it should have been more character and chemistry, but the caricatures that these people are, I think are really like successful.
Really
where I'm like,
I knew very tastefully.
Yeah, I knew who they should have been, but it didn't feel too much like. Though I don't know, the main one, Miles, is definitely supposed to be like an Elon Musk, and I do feel like they kind of skewer him a little bit. I don't care. I mean, I'm not like, he can wipe his. It's like the Woody Harrelson, the Tallahassee meme of dabbing his eyes with dollar bills. I don't think Elon Musk's going to be, too put off by a movie kind of making fun of a character like him. But you figure you've got him. There's a Joe Rogan-esque podcast / well, he's a Twitch star, but it's that type of I don't know if they're right leaning, but like they call it what is it, men's rights?
He made me think of like an Andrew Tate.
Yeah. No, so what do you call him? Dave Bautista plays, like you said, an Andrew Tate. I felt like Andrew Tate light, you know what I mean? Or like, I mean, he wasn't fully tating it, but he was like a conglomeration of that type of person, right?
Focusing on men's rights.
Yeah, exactly. And what does he say? Like, take that, feminists or feminism.
Take that, feminism.
And what was it, like the breastification of the U.S. or whatever? And you're like, what is he talking about?
What the fuck are you going on about?
What are you saying? And I love that he lives with his mom. you know. But and then Kate Hudson plays just like a dumb celebrity, right? Who's like, I say what, I say what I think, and I tell the truth that everybody else is already thinking, but they're too afraid to say. I say it, and so they respect me for it. And it's like that classic, like, no, you sound like an idiot. Like you're not saying the truth. You're saying what you think, but right, that's not necessarily. Even Benoit has that line where he's like, it's a dangerous thing to say what you think and confuse that with the truth.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like, "Are you calling me dangerous?" And he's like, "Well, we'll see." But and then like the politician who doesn't really necessarily believe any of the things that she's, campaigning on.
Yeah.
Right. But it's whatever gets the votes. Right. And I do like that there's that undertone of like all of these people are shitty people who are loyal to money.
Money.
Money. And that is definitely like an underlying theme throughout. Benoit Blanc, man. I mean, he's just as charming as ever. Like Daniel Craig pulls off that really thick Southern accent. Yeah, and like in the way he speaks, as far as like the words he uses that nobody else,
Yeah.
He speaks like a book character.
Yep.
But he pulls it off. I mean,
to be literally say like, well, I never.
Yeah.
Which we always jokingly say.
Yeah.
But he actually say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Daniel Craig, he seems to have a lot of fun playing the character. And I think that translates really well of like, I have fun watching him.
Right.
Janelle Monáe has a pretty decent role in this as far as a lot of screen time. And I think she does a very good job.
She kills it, yeah.
Because she kind of has more range than some of the other characters.
Sure.
Or like she requires more range than some of the other characters. Where a lot of the other people are playing, like I said, caricatures.
Right.
You're going to play this type of person, right? And they're kind of one-dimensional characters on purpose. Whereas her character gets a little bit more meat, and I think she does a good job with what she's given. And again, we kind of have to be vague with those things.
Yeah.
But I thought for me, like that Kate Hudson, Ed Norton, Daniel Craig, and like I said, Janelle Monáe, they all were like the highlights for me.
Oh yeah.
Dave Bautista too, but just as far as like screen time and the way they play the characters, definitely them. But I felt like I believed the conflicts between these characters.
Yeah, they're very real.
Yeah, they felt like so I don't know that I mean that they're one-dimensional characters, but as far as like on the surface, for a lot of the film, they feel like I'm this type of person, right? Like we said, this is an Andrew Tate, this is an Elon Musk, things like that. But that's all I've got without getting into spoilers. What do you feel there?
As far as characters, Daniel Craig playing Detective Blanc, Benoit Blanc. Yeah. But I love his character, and just hearing him with like that southern accent. I love it so much. But dude, his drip throughout the entire movie.
A lot of the characters are like
all of
there's
their
a lot of
outfits.
style in the movie.
What's the doctor's name? The
scientist?
Yeah.
Not Leonard.
Lionel.
Yeah.
Lionel had some hard drip too on the by the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hat with the sunglasses.
Yeah.
But dude,
and then Andy. Janelle Monáe's character.
Yeah.
A lot of good outfits on her. Like I even made the comment when she gets out of the car at like her real introduction, and she's got her haircut and her sunglasses and her outfit. I was like, fuck, she's looking good. Like
same when she's walking to the pool, she's got like that dress on, but very pretty colors.
Yeah, it was like
really cool,
a water,
like a nautical look to it. And then
Daniel
Craig coming
in with like the short shorts and the very like 1930s swimming suit,
and
with the stripes.
So
he kills it. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, I'm like, this is looking good.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like
like you said, every outfit he wore, you're like, man,
he's looking
good
sharp.
looking guy.
Yeah, he's killing it out there.
Yeah.
But
there were a few characters that I was like, was that like Morgan was like, was that Ethan Hawke? I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that was Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke just plays a guy who like basically gives them an inoculation before they get on the boat,
And then that's
then that's it. And then same with oh my god, I just lost his name. Hugh Grant plays what did we decide that it was Daniel Craig's partner?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, is that Hugh Grant?
Yeah.
Like, why is Hugh Grant playing this bit part?
Yeah, Hugh Grant tweeted and said that, like, it's confirmed that he's Daniel Craig's partner in the movie.
Yeah, he's Benoit Blanc's partner. But just because Benoit Blanc's just taking a bath and the doorbell rings and he hollers, can you get that door? And just Hugh Grant. I was like, I wasn't expecting Hugh Grant in this movie, But yes, I do think there's a decent cast of like even the bit parts where, oh shit, that's Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, just good names, just being put in there for super small roles that you aren't expecting, but you're like,
yeah, all right,
cool.
But I mean, it's just like putting Don Johnson in the first one, and Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, shit, the first one has a great cast, but yeah, I'm ready to rate it if you are.
Yes.
So how do we rate stuff around here?
Of course, you can always be overwhelmed, which means you're thoroughly enjoyed what the film is, over your expectations. You can be underwhelmed, which means that it did not meet your expectations. You were kind of bummed about it.
Yeah.
Or you could always be right in the middle and be simply
whelmed.
whelmed.
Yeah. So do you want to do like a 1, 2, 3 on this, or do you think it's pretty obvious what we got here? There's no reveal, I don't think, here.
My unanimous decision.
we say different answers, I think we all know how we felt here. Underwhelmed.
Simply whelmed.
Yeah, what? No, overwhelmed.
Yeah, overwhelmed for sure. Very good movie.
Yeah, I was like, he did it again.
You
son of a
bastard.
What are we doing? We were talking about Maverick. Maverick, you son of a bitch.
Maverick, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson, you son of a bitch. No, for reals though, just kills it.
It was a good movie.
Like it's one that I'm already like, I could watch that again. Like it's very watchable.
It keeps you pretty like guessing.
Yeah.
Until they reveal, because as soon as they reveal, it's not necessarily the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But then, because it's like, okay, well, what happens next after that?
After that, yeah.
So, kind of playing on that. But it keeps you guessing until and then it's like, that makes sense, and they can all kind of, piece it together.
Because it does a good job of, so the whole setup is that, like you said, this billionaire who is supposed to be Elon Musk, he's Miles Braun, was that what it was? Invites his rich, wealthy friends to his private island for the weekend. And is going to have a murder mystery, right? He's going to fake his death or, have a fake murder mystery party for the weekend. And Benoit Blanc gets an invite and he shows up, as well as Andy, who seems to be a wrench in things. We're like, oh, who's this? And basically the revelation is it's not dissimilar from the first one insofar as Benoit Blanc was not invited, but he got an invitation.
But yeah, he's there somehow.
Similar to the first movie of like,
which
he
I
was hired.
I like that.
Yeah.
I keep that. I think that's a cool niche that he has.
Yeah. But then I love the reveal that that's not true.
Well, right? He was technically.
Yeah, he was invited by by Andy, who is actually Helen.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's the whole twist of the thing is, why am I supposed to be here? And so the setup is that you think you're there because someone's going to kill Miles Braun, right? And so you're like, oh man, anybody could be a suspect, right? They all have motives to kill him. Is the other thing too?
Yeah, is
like it's set up in a way that if someone tried to kill him, you would buy it.
Yeah, right? That's, he's got a good enough reason to.
Yeah, and then it goes to a point of Dave Bautista's character gets poisoned.
Yeah.
And dies, and you're like, holy fuck! And then you realize that the glasses were switched, and that it's Miles.
It's Miles all along.
Miles's glass that that got poisoned, and so then, oh man, they are trying to kill Miles, and so everybody thinks it's Andy, and they're all running around trying to get Andy, who's his ex business partner that he kind of fucked out of the company, and she ends up getting shot and killed, right? Psych. Yeah. Turns out actually that days prior, Cassandra or Andy was found dead from suspected suicide, and her twin sister came to Benoit Blanc suspecting that it was not a suicide, right? And that one of these people killed her, basically, that are going to be on this island. Her sister was invited, and so they devised the plan to send Helen, her twin sister, right?
As
Andy, and Benoit Blanc will show up as well and pretend that he's been invited. And so it's like a weird wrinkling things, right? And so that's a neat setup of like, okay, so now what they're doing is he and her are working together to try and figure out who killed her sister, right? And, so then I kind of get to watch the movie again in a way where you're seeing her perspective of going around and learning more things, and you see specific scenes from a different angle, and you go, okay.
And that's what I was going to touch on, is I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, where seeing something for a second time from a different set of eyes makes more sense, and meets it up a little bit.
As well as something I did want to talk about, speaking of...
fleshes it out. Meets it up a bit.
Meets it up a bit.
It's all meated up.
Thick cut.
I'm going to meet you up.
Nah.
Pardon?
80% lean. Yeah. It's lean beef.
Nah, this is 93.7.
But one of the things I want to talk about was the camera angles.
Yeah.
It had a bunch of like that almost like 80s dramatic zoom up on like the face.
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot. And it brought like, in a weird way, because it was cheesy, but it was played off really good in a way where it didn't seem cheesy. Yeah. But somehow it was kind of like that niche suspense.
Yeah.
And I really was a big fan of that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. One of the so in the setup there of when you're still under the suspicion that someone's trying to kill Miles, and Miles has the revelation that, oh no, my murder mystery is supposed to be going on right now. Oh yeah, we didn't address that. Benoit Blanc solves the murder mystery before it ever starts,
and he asks if there's a prize.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, what do you want?
What do you win? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, is there a prize? He's like, well, what do you want? He's like, well, I don't know. I
don't know if it was like you win an iPad.
Win an iPad or something? He's like, all right, fine. You can have an iPad if you win. Like,
and then later he interrupts him because, I don't need an iPad.
I don't need an iPad. I'm not. That's not what I was going on.
I was just, I didn't know.
It sounded like there's a prize to win. I just wanted to know what it was. And then he's like, are we starting now? And he's like, well, I mean, I'm not dead yet, but sure, yeah, we can go. And then he just rattles off the solution real quick. And it's like, fuck.
And then right after he says that, he tells Miles is shot by an arrow, and that's what kills him, and he's connecting all the dots to how it was. But right as he finishes, the arrow goes off. Stabs him in the chest, and the fake blood starts spewing out.
Yeah, and he's like just sitting there looking pissed off.
Yeah. It's fucking duped.
Yeah,
and before it even started,
before it's ever begun. But so because of that, they're all kind of just standing around with their thumbs in their ass, right? When it all starts to go down. And frickin' he had planned on saying something dramatic, and then the lights would go out for like 20 minutes at 10 o'clock. Yeah. And so the lights go out. And I really love a lot of that cinematography of them running around the dark mansion. And because it's a big glass house, there's a lighthouse. And so
every so
as
often,
it swipes past,
you see the shadow.
There's like the light and the shadows cast. And
you see them being farther or closer.
Yeah. And I think there's some really good cinematography in that.
That adds a lot of suspense to it too, because you're not sure the
it almost felt a little bit horrifying of like, oh, like there's a killer loose in this house with us.
It gives it like that slasher feel.
Yeah, because then they also realize that Duke, which is Dave Bautista's character, his gun is missing.
Yeah, so someone
has a gun on this island that we're secluded on, and the lights just went out, right? And everybody scatters, right? And so everybody's running around this house with a loose killer, right? And so you're like, oh, like that's a scary feeling of like, what if that's real, And so I thought, that was pretty successful for being like a mystery comedy to then put in some pretty convincing thrill or suspense. I lost my train of thought. We were talking about cinematography and all that, and I think that's all I had was just I thought about that shot specifically or some of those scenes, and like even down to seeing someone wielding the gun, and the way it's shot is like here's just the hand and the gun. Yeah,
aiming. They're holding the gloves. You have no idea who it is.
You don't know who it is, and it feels very like a TV thriller, in a good way. It felt referential. Yeah. Just it's good stuff.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And So it kept you guessing in good ways, and you know, it wasn't like so difficult to the point where it's like you couldn't guess it.
Right, and that's the other thing.
I could have a couple theories, and one of them would be right, and but it wouldn't be all the way right. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm on a trail, but then you'd start piecing everything together, and then it made sense.
And then, like I said, it all comes together at the same time for you as well as for the character, so that as he has his Benoit Blanc, here's everything I have, right? And he gives the breakdown and his explanation of who did what and why, and here's how it's like. But you weren't there, so it couldn't have been her, so it was you, you know. And as he's rattling it all off, you're like, yes, I'm with you, Benny. Like, yes. I understand. And because the whole thing was that Dave Bautista was poisoned, right? And it was intentional. And he mentions casually, and that's the other thing that it does.
It's very slick when it threw it in.
Yeah, it's like, you know, because it just sounds like a toolish line that he would say, you know, of like, you know, what's in the thing, you know, and it's the spray that they're using to like inoculate them. And he's like, then I got pineapple on it. What does he say? Duke don't dance with pineapple.
Yeah, Duke doesn't dance with pineapple.
You know, and you're like, what a fucking toolish thing to say. But it's because he's allergic.
He's allergic to it.
And as he says, like, you know, I as he's coming to that point of like, it wasn't poison, you know, it was something stupid. It was, and I was like, pineapple. It was pineapple.
Yep, and then you got it right.
Yeah, and I got it right because then he was like, pineapple juice, you know, and I was like, am I smarter than everybody else, you know?
Now, I will say, I did watch it before you did once, and I had two theories. Yeah. And my first theory was way wrong, and like that was my initial theory that I went with, where I was like, oh, it's this guy. Here's why. It was Lionel, who I thought, because he was in that conference with all the other scientists, and they're telling him like, you need to stop. Yeah. Right. And then throughout this whole thing, you know, maybe he's just like, fuck it, I've had it, you know, I'm done. Right. But then also like some of the looks that he gave, as well as like
they talking. And that's the other thing that it does well is like throughout,
like
any of them could have been.
Everyone seems sketch.
Yeah.
But like, just what really sold it for me is like, since he was the scientist behind it, he knew like, this is awful, you know, this is gonna fucking kill everybody. Yeah. So that's my logic behind it. But then I was way off, and I was like, woof, big old fat swing and a miss.
What was your second theory?
That it was Miles.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, I pieced it together, too.
Yeah. Because, like I said, I thought that maybe it was Duke at the behest of Miles, because it felt like they had the most subservient relationship of, like, that Duke was his boy, you know, like, you know, he was his fetch boy, right? Down to the point of like, Duke just lets him fuck around with his girlfriend, to hopefully get somewhere with him. You know what I mean? So like, ooh, it's some like, what does he call it? What does Benoit Blanc call it? Like transactional cuckolding. You know, and you're like, oh, not cuckolding. But
he doesn't know about that.
Yeah, why would Benny Blanc know about cuckolding? But
no, he says that to Miles, or Miles says that to...
Yeah, he doesn't know about that. He's like,
he knows.
Yeah, he does. He's basically, we all
He knows
do.
everything.
I mean, everybody knows. Yeah, and so I wouldn't have been surprised if Duke did it just as like an attaboy, right? You know? Which then would make sense why he knocked him off for me. Was like, okay, and then Miles killed Duke because he wanted him. Oh, he knows too much, right? I gotta get rid of him. And I was kind of close on that, in that Miles killed Duke, but he also killed Andy because Duke saw him leaving Andy's house, right? So I felt pretty good that I was in the ballpark. Smart. Yeah. But no, I mean, good stuff. Got to watch it because, you know, we're not going to do it justice because it is written very, very well. Yeah. Of like, where you're like, okay, they're just listing out a mess. But when it's all played out in time in front of you.
It's almost like when you're given, what are those, like, those pieces of paper and all have like a maze on it. Yeah. Right. And you're looking at it, right, and you're thinking of what it is, and then you have another piece of paper you can put on it, and it shows like the actual outline. Yeah. And you're like, I felt like that's how the movie was, is how it's directed. Like, we got that first paper, we got to look at it, you know, as a whole, and then they put that other piece of paper on it, and you're like, and it shows the way,
actual, and you're like,
you know, like the different perspective, and it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. It was very satisfying in that way.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, there is nothing better than that. Like I think about like I said with the first movie of like when he's having his telling you the revelations, you're like, oh God, tell me what it is. You're on the edge of your seat. God damn it, and it does, and then it has a very satisfying conclusion of basically you find out that all of these people lied in court and made Andy look like a liar, and that's part of why her sister's mad at all these people. And she finds the evidence. She calls them shitheads, yeah. And she finds the evidence that like corroborates her sister's statement, right? And that they all knew was true, right? And fucking Miles burns it up, And I did like the revelation that like Miles is an idiot.
Yeah,
like he's stupid, and he just happens to sometimes have good ideas. But it's like the broken clock, right? And his best ideas weren't his, right? He stole the company from Andy, and all these people are, what do they say, suckling at his gold teats or holding on to his gold tits.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what comes to pass again is that they're all willing to lie again. That like, no, we don't know what happened here, right? And they're all going to stand up for him, and so it's that whole thing of like, it's your word against mine and all of these people who I can pay to say whatever I want.
Yeah.
And it's like that power of money. And even Benoit Blanc is like, unfortunately, like, yeah, I'm not the law and order, right? I'm the detective and I can present a case, but without evidence.
He even says in the beginning, he goes, I'm not Batman.
Yeah, I'm not Batman. I'm not going to go in and beat up the bad guy and catch him. Like, I can just build a case and present it to the courts, right? And then
that's where my jurisdiction ends.
Yeah. And he runs up against, there's no physical evidence. There's just a really good detective story, right? And so she goes on a rampage of just knocking shit over, destroying the house, and then lighting the house on fire because it's all being powered by this experimental hydrogen-based fuel that's supposed to be like zero carbon emissions, right, and all that, but potentially incredibly dangerous because hydrogen is highly flammable. And that's what happens. She blows up the whole house, and in the process ruins his reputation because she burns the Mona Lisa.
Yep.
He bought the full actual Mona Lisa from the Louvre.
Yeah, he was loaning it from them because they needed money.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, well, your museums are closed, so you're not showing anyone the Mona Lisa. Let me hold on to it, and I'll give you X amount of
money for it. And he had this whole thing throughout that like he wanted his name to be in the same breath as the Mona Lisa, right? Like that's what he wanted his level of recognition to be, right? And so like she even tells him like, there you go, like you got what you wanted.
You're the guy who
your fuel that you're trying to push just burned up the Mona Lisa, like easily the most recognizable painting in the world. You got what you wanted, right? And there goes your brand, right? Miles Braun is basically going to be done.
Good as dirt.
And all of the people that are under his thumb because he owns them basically
no longer has money.
He doesn't have money now. He has no worth, so he's worthless to them. And now they're all going to turn on him. And I did like that doesn't make them good people. You know what I mean? Like they weren't doing the right thing. No, they were acting out of like petty malice, right? You don't own us, so fuck you.
Yeah.
And she still gets to walk away. Helen does as like the superior, like the hero. And like taking the true high road. Yeah, and let them all squabble down in the dumps, right? And eat each other up, eat each other alive over
she
money.
Puts herself above that.
Yeah, and I did like that like they all end up tearing each other apart basically.
Money can corrupt you.
Well, absolute power corrupts absolutely. But no, very good movie. It definitely lived up to my expectations of the first one. Yeah, right. You just blind yourself there. Yeah. You turned on his iPad and just whoa. But any more thoughts there, Chris?
No. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, but everything that you said that we just kind of bantered off is my thoughts to it. I'm excited for the next one that's going to come out.
Yeah, definitely.
But
and I'm excited to start hearing about like the cast. You know what I mean? Like that's always my favorite part.
I did want to say.
Yeah.
Something I noticed watching it again in the first, for the second time now, is in the scene where it shows Miles switching
Drinks.
drinks. It is. In the first original scene, it is, you see him hand him that drink specifically.
Is it?
And then in the second time, when it shows...
When he's like, oh no, he picked up my drink.
He sets it down and Duke picks it up.
So he does legitimately hand it to him?
Mm-hmm. He does actually hand it to him. I did notice that the second time watching it.
And see, I like that, because that is kind of nice of like...
It's the small details.
Yeah, where, because that I could see that being a nagging point of like, well, it only is solvable with a scene that you show us at the end.
Right.
But if it legitimately was that way, then, and I do like
you
that
guys remember it this way.
It played on that like characteristic of his, of like doing something stupid, but using his charm or his charisma to just convince you that it's a good thing or right, And so like, oh no, we switched drinks, you know what I mean? And they all just went with it, right? Even though they saw him hand him the drink. And once Ben points that out, they're all like, yeah, wait a minute, you did hand him his drink,
Fuck.
And so good catch. I had the same experience with the movie Get Out.
Okay.
Where after you know what the premise is and you watch it a second time, you're like, oh. So like at the beginning of Get Out, when they're driving to see her parents and they get pulled over and the officer wants to see his ID and she won't let won't let Chris show his ID. It's not because she's like being social justice, right? It's because she doesn't want like a cop to have his ID and like place him there, right? Because he's about to be a missing person, right? And so I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing there. And then there's a little Easter egg that I love in that movie of you hear on the TV, actually Jordan Peele's voice say that the mind is a terrible thing to waste. And the whole thing is about putting your mind in another person's body. Yeah. But that's a good-ass movie.
It is. We'll have to watch that one again.
Yeah. So, you got a... What you been thinking about, Chris?
Actually, I think what you meant to say is, welcome back to Chris's Cryptid Corner. I'm your host, Chris.
That's right.
So, actually, I thought of this cryptid a couple weeks ago. Last week, actually, because I was had one ready for the episode, and then I realized that we did a mini-sode.
Yeah.
So I was like,
air quotes. It ended up being a full-length episode.
Right. And so I was like, well, I'll just keep it, and I'll kind of keep poking at it a little bit, finding more information until, for whatever it is.
You know what I'm saying?
If you know what I mean. Do you remember the show Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Yeah.
Dude, that's what I'm talking about. It's not a cryptid, but it's just fucking creepy.
You're like, you know what my cryptid is? A Cartoon Network show.
Bingo, yeah.
But you know what makes that show creepy? Or why it's creepy? It's because it's told from the perspective of the dog.
I mean, I guess, but like even like some of the ones I have pulled up, like they're scary.
Oh yeah, no, like the
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Slab.
Yeah, I have King Rams is on there.
Yeah,
he's one of them.
Yeah.
But like literally, they're from this town called Nowhere.
Right.
Like, and that to me was one of the spookiest things as a kid watching that. Is like, it is just this house and.
Right, but I think that's the dog's perspective, right?
Sure.
But it's still creepy.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Which is why it's scary to the dog,
But this first one that I wanted to talk about was Freaky Fred. Do you remember?
Is that the dentist? Or the barber? The barber, yeah.
The barber. And did you know, like, I mean, it's been forever, right, since I've seen it. But, like, looking back, reading the lore behind it, I'm like, this is fucking, like,
scary.
Why did we watch this as kids?
Oh, yeah.
Let me see here.
Miriam and Eustace, right?
What?
Miriam and Eustace, wasn't that his owners? Stupid dog.
Okay. So the whole thing that kind of revolves around this is people say that Fred was not schizophrenic, but like mentally insane.
Okay.
And like it does pick up on it, and you can hear out.
Yeah.
But here it says, Fred first realized his compulsion when he was given a hamster as a pet, and he cut all of its fur off.
Yeah.
Later in life, he fell in love with a girl named Barbara, who had a quote-unquote a mane that was untamed. So just messy hair.
Yeah, she had messy hair.
Sure. They had held a steady relationship until one night he shaved her head, causing her to end the relationship. After that, he vowed to control his addiction. However, the arrival of a long, bearded man into his barbershop was an irresistible temptation for him, as he too was shaven.
Yeah.
Fred was then committed to the Home for Freaky Barbers mental institution during his vacation time. He chose to...
Now, is all of this in that episode?
Yeah, they talk about this.
Yeah.
During his vacation time, he chose to visit his aunt and her husband, which is Muriel Eustace.
Yeah. So her name's Muriel.
Muriel. Is it Muriel?
Is it Muriel?
Muriel.
Yeah.
Muriel.
Yeah. Yeah.
During his stay, he was locked in the bathroom with Courage and slowly trimmed his hair until nothing but a patch of fur on his tail was remained that had a message that said, "With love, Fred."
Yeah.
The asylum police arrived and took him away as Fred looked back in the farmhouse with a freaky smile while saying his goodbyes through his thoughts. Fred got taken away in a white van that started to piece together his day with Courage and the memories of shaving his fur.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember, like, watching that.
Well, I mean,
like,
you figure all you had to say was Freaky Fred, and I was like, I thought Dennis at first because he has really big teeth, doesn't he?
Yeah, like, that's his whole thing, and here I have it pulled up.
Got a picture of him.
Under his feet.
Yeah.
But, like, one of the other things is, like, the still images that they had, like, just of, like, the details on them. Of,
well, SpongeBob does the same stuff.
Yeah. Well,
of, like, creepily...
Do they still do it?
I don't know. But they did. Mm-hmm. Like, the creepily up close.
Yeah. Like, very
like,
detailed. Like, you can see the pores.
Yeah.
And it's just very gross. But, like, that was one of them. And then the other one I did want to talk about, just because I had to boil it down to two.
Yeah.
And
was Ramses.
Had to talk about it. Was Ramses.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you figure you said Courage the Cowardly Dog being creepy, and I was like, bring us the slab.
Bring back the slab. Ramses is a ghost of a pharaoh whose tomb is disturbed when two criminals looted a stone tablet. He first confronts the two grave robbers who hid the slab next to the Eustace and Muriel's house.
Yeah.
Muriel's house, next to their water pump.
Right.
Sending a swarm of locusts to devour them. When Courage finds the relic, Eustace is initially uninterested, but immediately clings to the slab when he realizes that's worth $1 million. Research tells Eustace that he has come for the return of the stolen slab, but he declines and shuts the door when he offers no money.
Yeah.
The same night, Eustace is now obsessed with this future fortune, babbles about what he'll buy with the $1 million.
Is that the episode when the house floods?
Yeah, but so, like, what's on the slab is the locust, the flood, and then the other one was the plague, I think.
Yeah, where, like, they all get sick.
Yeah, and they all get sick. Mm-hmm. But like, this was their first episode where they used CGI.
Oh, okay.
And, because their show. But yeah, because he's standing out in the distance and he's
swinging off of him and stuff.
Well, those are his hands.
But his hands
swinging off. He's got real lanky arms.
Yeah, like flapping in the wind almost.
Bring back the slab. And then, like, he's just like, nah. And he's like,
no.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
But, like, still, like, as a kid, I remember turning it off, and then, like, I turned it back on. Better settle that down.
Right, yeah.
But I ended up turning it back.
What am I having to settle down?
Oh, I thought your Siri thing was going off.
No. My watch was vibrated at me.
But these two are just scary as fuck, and, like, just thinking back on it. I remember I talked about it with, like, a coworker, like, I mean, forever ago, and then, like, I thought of it, and I was like, oh, that would be, like, good to talk about, like, that's, creepy, and how, like, that affected us, just as kids, supposedly, but, but still, like, that did a number on me as a kid. Like, looking back at it, I'm like, a lot of those shows, like, what was it, another one's, like, Flapjack.
Yeah.
Like, again, just the still, like, close-ups of them is just, like, that's so...
weird.
Yeah.
Like, you put in a kid's show.
But...
Did you ever see, it's like, I loved creepypasta. We should do an episode about creepypastas.
Yes. I have my favorite creepypasta.
Which one? What is it?
It's the Russian sleep experiment.
Oh, okay.
That one's such a good one. Well, I don't know, man. There's so many good ones out there.
Yeah. But there was one that really messed me up as a kid. Like, I say a kid, but, like, I was old enough to be online, but young enough to be, like, really creeped out by, like, just scary stories, right? And the ones that always get me are the ones with, like, videos of creepypasta.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, Squidward Suicide. Did you ever see that?
No.
Yeah, you gotta We gotta pull that up.
That's the one I've always seen memes about, but like
Yeah.
I missed.
Yeah, and so like I don't know if it still is actually genuinely creepy, or if it was just as a kid it would creep me out. You know what I mean?
What was it about?
Just
like a rundown.
So I think it was basically like somebody that worked at Nickelodeon was telling this story online, like, hey, I got to tell you guys about this episode that got like turned away or turned down. But that basically like the premise was like, oh yeah, they're going to screen this episode of SpongeBob, and like they're bullying Sponge. It starts off as like a normal episode, right? And then like they're bullying Squidward really bad about like a painting or something, and it just turns into like a hard cut to like Squidward just staring into the camera, essentially sitting on the edge of his bed for like too long. And then like he starts to sob into his hands for a while, and then stops again and looks up, and his eyes are real bloodshot, and he's just standing there, and then he literally like uses a shotgun.
Just offs himself.
And they were all like, what the fuck is this? Like, you know, and yeah, I mean, there was more to it, I'm sure, but like there was a video of it that somebody had made, and it was supposed to be like, this is the footage that I found and stole, right? You know what I mean? And yeah, I remember like watching it as a kid and like not being able to watch it all because I was like, this is just too creepy, you know what I mean? And so I would like to watch that one again and like, or find that one again and be like, is it still creepy?
Did Nickelodeon ever come out and say anything about it?
Oh, I'm sure they did, or it wasn't big enough for them to even, you know, wasn't on their radar, you know? And then there was another one called Ben Drowned that we'll have to look into, because that one's pretty creepy. It's like a basically a cursed Majora's Mask.
There's one
cartridge.
I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like it's this Jack in a Box, but like when it pops, it's a genie.
Okay.
Right, but it's like this cursed genie from like somewhere in the States.
Yeah.
But like the rumor is it eats people.
Okay.
Right, somehow, and it has just like this long connection of like who it's been passed down to,
who's owned it,
and like all of them have just gone missing.
They just disappeared.
Yeah, they can't be found, and they think it relates back to this box. So, and they said like it's gone. They don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
So
someone's gonna find it.
Dude, yeah, I swear to God, if I get a Jack in a Box, I'm not even touching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll fucking get a stick and poke it
there
off
was
my
a
porch.
really good. I say really good. I only watched like the first season of it, and it was pretty all right. But a good premise for a TV show on Sci-Fi called Channel Zero.
Okay.
And it was an anthology show similar to like an American Horror Story or something like that, where each season's a different story. But it was each season was a different creepypasta. And I really liked that idea. I really liked that idea, and I wish somebody would pick either that show back up or just that premise.
Yeah.
Right?
Channel Zero's a good name for it, too.
Yeah.
I like it. It's catchy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I had about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to...
No. I mean, we're just shooting back and forth.
Shooting shit, as the kids say.
But that's about all I got for my Cryptid Corner. What you been thinking about, Colin?
Oh, shit, I didn't write down what I've been thinking about, but I'll tell you what I've been thinking about. Two things. Inflation. No.
Bingo.
I'm concerned. Now, the frickin' Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer that we played too long last night.
Yeah.
Like, we played from, about 11 o'clock?
10:45, I mean.
Yeah, 10:30, 11 o'clock, until about 5 in the morning.
Yeah. Hard. And, like, when we stopped, I was like, oh, I thought it was, like, 2.
Yeah.
Like, I thought we just played a couple hours, and we...
No, I knew that. I knew that it was 5 in the morning. Because, like, I'd kind of kept an eye on the time, where I just periodically look at my watch or whatever. And I was like, oh, we're really playing, you know? And I wasn't going to...
Well, because that's the thing.
I wasn't going to stop you because you do not do that.
I'm a big baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to sleep, I'm a...
It's getting pretty late. And it's like 1:30, and I'm like, come on, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, no, you were big dogging it, man. You played until damn near sunrise, you know?
I was the one that was trying to keep us... I was like, one more game.
I was like, we need to go to bed.
And I was like, nah, let's just keep it going.
Yeah. And then the other thing I've been thinking about is, like... New Vegas / Outer Worlds. I've just been craving that type of game, and like I haven't finished Outer Worlds, and I need to, But then also last year, the year prior, we found like a New Vegas multiplayer mod.
Yeah, we started hopping into that.
Yeah, and I'd like us to maybe try and get that working again because I really enjoy New Vegas. It's still my favorite Fallout game. Yeah. But it does definitely show its age, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a game from 2011, you know?
And yeah, we're going to see 2011 graphics.
Yeah, and just the gameplay even, or like the gunplay and things like that feels kind of old. But I love that game so much. Yeah. And the Outer Worlds really has some of that.
So I'm telling you, like, a fan just needs to come out and remaster it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised that's not a thing yet.
Well, so I think there's a Fallout 4 mod in the works called
New Vegas.
Like New Vegas something, yeah. But yeah, where they're trying to just make Fallout New Vegas in Fallout 4. And I'd be in that.
I'd be in that hard.
But then also, I mean, now that Microsoft owns Bethesda from like a creativity standpoint, and I believe that Microsoft owns Obsidian as well, they can basically say, yeah, you know what everybody wants? Fallout New Vegas 2.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Right. I would have to be in that.
Hard.
Like.
No rubber. Got you good on that one.
Not one in sight, you know? But what you been thinking about?
I think a couple things. One, yeah, that Ghost of Tsushima. We've been fucking on it hard.
Yeah.
Two, I got an iPad.
Yeah, you did.
And I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, Apple, but if you want to sponsor me, hook me up, you can definitely let me know.
Yeah, we've got a few sponsors that we're willing to take right now.
So
Bath and Body Works, he'll take Apple, and LaCroix. I've been drinking the fuck out of LaCroix's and smelling the fuck out of Bath and Body Works candles since day one. You know? So
no, but yeah, so I got this iPad and I'm kind of utilizing it strictly for the podcast.
Yeah.
But like, so I made sure like all of our socials are on there. So I kind of went on, started, touching up a lot of our Twitter. I'm going to be getting into our Facebook, but I started touching up on like our Instagram. So just expect to see a lot more quality time going into
hopefully,
that.
Yeah, more activity.
Posting more just besides like
the weekly, like, hey, here's a new episode.
Right. So it's just interacting more on social media. So I'm kind of dedicating this to more of that, which I'm very excited for. So I'm going to finish doing all that. But no, I'm a little geeked about it.
Yeah.
But then I've been playing the fuck out of Pokemon.
Have you?
Pokemon Violet.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to finish it. I thought it was farther than I was, but I haven't played it in a long time. So I'm finishing up on that. And then, I mean, dude, Sons of the Forest comes out
really soon
in a month.
Yeah.
In a next month it comes out. Dude, I got to take a vacation. I tomorrow.
I'm on vacation the week it comes out, so I'll play it before you, really. Because you tried and you got denied.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not denied for March. I'm going to try to take a vacation in March so I can play the Sons of the Forest and I can play the day before. Yep. Yes, because we talked about if the day before blows ass, I can just grind.
Fall back on the forest.
Forest.
Yep. And unfortunately, my vacation is pulling double duty, and I can't move it. So
yeah, I was pretty bummed when I wasn't able to get that, but
yeah,
that's life.
That all you got? That you've been thinking about? I'm not expecting you to have more. I just don't want to cut you off.
No, work's finally going back to normal.
That's good.
As the holidays are wrapping up.
Yeah,
we're going back to normal hours.
So that'll be fun. That'll be good.
Yeah, so I get to sleep in an extra hour as well as I leave an hour earlier.
Yeah.
So like I'm so pumped I can kind of finally have a social life back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you can have a life outside of that job.
Oh, speaking of, this is New Year. Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
How you gonna do me like
that? What? If you don't, then
I don't want to be a big fat fuck anymore. All right, what's yours? Guy, I just asked if you had one.
These are like a hopeful thing, like something that you like to talk about.
I hope I don't die of a heart attack by 40. How about that? What's yours? I hope I avoid type 2 diabetes. How about you?
I want to travel more this year. Like I do. I want to see more. Womp womp.
Yeah, no. No, I mean, yeah, probably. I do need to lose weight.
Hitting the gym, getting swole.
No, I'll just try and trim down first.
I don't know, man. It just cuts to you. You know, I'm sorry. I can't be your man.
I'm sorry.
She's a fucking fan.
Hitting the gritty. I'm just jacked. Oh, man. Again, we want to thank you guys so much for your attention and support. If you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a great review, and like and follow us. Subscribe on what all we got there: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to the podcast, whatever their version of following us is, so you get notified when we post our episodes. Obviously, word of mouth can be a big bonus right now. So make sure that you're sharing us on social media and telling people, tell one friend, right? When they ask you, well, what'd you do over the holidays? I listened to the Simply Whelmed podcast.
That's right. We got to do something about, we need to make a book or something about the good word.
Just a manifesto, maybe?
The Bible too. The Bible too.
The Bible too, Electric Boogaloo, The Bible 2, here we go again,
Oh, shit, here we go again.
What is it, like Sister Act 2? Back in the habit,
The Bible 2, rehab.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't remember all my stuff, but basically, you know the drill. Like us, enjoy us, share us.
Yep.
Chris, if people want to get in touch with us and give us some feedback, some fan mail, some hate mail.
Yes, absolutely. So you can always take a look at us on our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and our subreddit as well that we have at Simply Whelmed Podcast. You can always take a look. Our Twitter handle is Whelmed_simply. And then finally, you can always, send us a good email, send us some hate mail, leak our IP address, send an offering.
Call me names.
Yeah, call Colin names. Send in an offering
of that.
for the disciple of the good word. Brother Colin and I will be hosting that weekly, but at simplywhelmedmailbag@gmail.com.
That's correct. Next week, we're going to talk about some of our, how do you want to phrase that? Like most excited things that we're most excited for in 2023 as far as projects, whether it be movies, video games, TV shows, comic books.
I think we all know where a lot of mine are going.
Oh, yeah. But, because there's stuff that I would like to look at what's coming out in 2023 and go, oh, I didn't know that was coming out next year or this year,
right.
And then be like, yo, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to potentially look at stuff that isn't Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know what I mean? Or,
in our realm.
Yeah, or isn't the day before, something we already know you're looking forward to, and then it turns into, oh, actually, I'm also looking forward to this, right? And then the week after that is the premiere of HBO's The Last of Us series.
Which I'm very excited for.
I am too, and so we'll definitely do an episode about the premiere, just kind of give our initial thoughts, I would almost like to record on Sunday, it's that way, we're fresh off the, here's our thoughts. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm totally down for that.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's all I got. That's the end of the show, Chris. Tell everybody bye.
I'll see y'all later. Dose. Yeah, you were not expecting that.
I was not. Yeah. Yeah, get that off that iPad. Boy, I'll take that away from you.
I bought it.